Hello, my beautiful souls, and welcome to Muse in Tech podcast. I'm your host, Delia, and today, just like every week, or at least time to time, we are here to lift each other up. So, this is the space where we keep it real, where we can talk about our stories, our challenges, and what it means to finally claim the right to your own unique path in tech. So today guest Christina Lovelock brings not only experience but deep insight into what it really takes to build meaningful tech career. She has worked in tech sector for over 20 years and she is the author of the books including the latest one, Careers in Tech, Data and Digital, from Education to Employment. Christina also serves as an endpoint assessor for digital apprenticeships and is the director of community at tech consultancy startup, Earth Consulting. She is passionate advocate for accessible tech careers, a regular speaker, STEM ambassador, and a volunteer book reviewer for the charity called Technology Books for Children. Wow, this is a lot. So sit back, open your minds, and get ready for a thoughtful, practical, and empowering conversation. Welcome to the podcast, Christina.
Thank you so much, Dahlia. Thank you for having me and inviting me on.
Amazing. For introduction, according your achievement, I said I'm hardly fit in the 1 minute. Tell me about your books. Actually, Sid, we didn't plan this question, but I'm so curious how you start writing a books because it's quite heavy thing and how they called and how they can help for people.
So I've written 2 books, as you mentioned. The first is called Delivering Business Analysis, and I was very fortunate with that book to be able to write with a co-author, Dr. Deborah Paul, who's a very experienced author. So that really helped me to kind of learn to navigate all the processes around creating a book, chunking it up, deciding the structures, going through the processes like proofreading, editing, typesetting. So I had that experience, which was really positive. And that book was really aimed at people who are managing a practice of business analysts. But actually, it's valuable to people who are managing any type of team. It might be developers or testers, to think about what's it mean to create a successful practice and deliver your specialist function as a service to the organization. And then my most recent book is, as you mentioned, is called Careers in Tech, Data and Digital. And that's really aimed at helping a wider range of people discover some of the interesting, exciting, creative and collaborative roles in tech, and learning that getting into tech doesn't just have to mean learning how to code.
Wow, this is the key point, I think, which usually people imagine how the tech industry looks and how you can get there. You have to start with the coding.
Yeah, a lot of people think that, but around in the UK, only about 10% of the tech workforce have a computer science or tech related degree. So actually, most people don't come into tech through a very technical route, a very coding based route. And most people in tech don't write code. So we really need to talk about all those other really interesting careers that are available as well.
Amazing, amazing. I believe that it will help to change the perspective of how to enter the tech industry. Okay, let's be not that serious. Tell me, what something people don't usually know about you?
So I'm a massive Taylor Swift fan. A lot of people don't know that about me. I was, fortunate enough to go to the Eras tour last year. It was amazing. Just love her so much. But yeah, not many people know that.
Wow, thank you that you're sharing it. It's really nice fact about you. Let's get back to your past, where your career journey start.
So I studied physics and astrophysics at university, and I thought, okay, what am I going to do with this? And I knew that I wanted to work in the public sector. And the job that I got happened to be in an IT team in a local authority. So I didn't set out to work in tech. And actually, I found through conversations that a lot of people got into tech the same way, kind of not aiming or not meaning to work in tech. A lot of people have worked in business roles and transitioned into tech. I was really fortunate in that first role because I was doing all kinds of different roles in tech. I was doing tech support. I was doing things like data migration, implementing and procuring new systems, things like data quality, regular reporting, business cases. So it gave me the experience of a whole load of different roles. And one of the things that I was doing in that role, although I didn't know what it was called, was thinking about the requirements for new IT systems. and looking at improving business processes. And I discovered that there was a name for that job and that was business analysis. So when I figured out what that particular role was in tech, I was able to move into the NHS, where I worked for 12 years on different national IT systems. And from there, I moved into higher education. I worked for a university for several years as head of the business analysis team, but also looking after solution architecture and technical architecture in that organisation. So I got into tech the traditional way, which is by not having any plans to work in tech at all.
Yeah, it's not that much traditional way. Traditional way, I would say that if you would finish computer science or computer engineering.
Well, I think people think that's the traditional route into tech, but actually that's not. Most people don't have computer science or engineering or tech degrees that work in tech.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Mm.
So how you would call that you're shifting when you get into tech industry?
So as I said, I was really interested in working in the public sector. I wanted to do something that helped people. And I think technology is a great way to help people. It helps people's lives better, do their jobs better. Usually there's some kind of end user or end customer that we're trying to make something better for them, quicker, more efficient, that they can do it themselves. So I think there's a really strong relationship between wanting to help people and wanting to work in technology. And that's not something that we talk about very often.
And now we are helping people with the technology as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Talking about your experiences, sharing your pathway into tech, I think is really valuable for the next generation of tech professionals.
I think so. What the key life moments or realization help you get where you are today?
So a key moment in my career was the first time that I attended a conference. So I'd done a lot of professional training and I thought that that was a really good way to kind of spend your time and any development budget that your organization might have, and hadn't really understood why you would go to a conference. Surely that's just people trying to sell each other things. That sounds terrible. And just the word networking as well sounds dreadful. Nobody wants to do that. So I wasn't really sure why you would go to a conference. And I went to a conference called Business Analysis Europe, which was in London. This is quite a few years ago now, I think around 2009 or 2010. And it helped me to look up from my organisation. So I worked for a large organisation. I was working in the NHS at the time. I was very kind of focused downwards like this. I was, looking at my organisation. I was thinking about how can we do things better? How can we deliver technology to the best of our ability? But I wasn't looking outwards. I wasn't looking at trends across the digital sector. I wasn't trying to learn from other organisations. And the first time I went to that conference, I was like, oh, okay, actually, I'm part of this much wider digital community, and that's really exciting. And because I worked for the NHS and there was very, very little money available, I knew that if I wanted to keep going to events like that, I would have to go for free as a speaker. So that really gave me a jolt that I was like, okay, so what have I got that's interesting to share? What knowledge do I want to share with the community? And that has led to all kinds of opportunities for me. I've done keynote speaking internationally, spoken at conferences all around the world, both remotely and in person. It's through the people that I've met at these conferences that I've had opportunities like writing books, but also writing articles for online and print magazines. And it's also supported me in my career journey, the different roles that I've done and the people that are part of my really supportive network. So that was a key moment for me.
It's amazing. I even didn't thought about that. Like, okay, I'm curious about the networking. How you would describe the process of the networking? What kind of mindset you're supposed to have before doing the networking or before going to the
Yeah. So I really dislike the word networking and personally I've kind of had to reframe it in my mind. And I've reframed it in two ways. One is to see it not as a networking event, but as a learning event. Because usually there's a speaker or there's some kind of agenda. It's about knowledge sharing. So it's about learning together. And the second part, the way that I've reframed it, is about community. So I don't talk about my network. I talk about my professional community that I'm part of. Because I think that's, again, much more about learning, supporting each other, thinking about what's next and what's new in the professional space. networking sounds very transactional. It sounds like we're trying to get something from each other, but
Yeah.
actually investing long term in your professional community, it's not about what can I get now, or what do I want somebody to know about me now. It's about what can we learn from each other, and what opportunities might we identify for each other in years to come, and how can I point you at some information that might be really valuable to you. So I kind of reframe away from networking and towards those ideas of learning and community.
I'm usually before events, set up the goals. It's letting me be in the quite kind of frame, and I'm not jumping around that much. So if I have a goal, obviously I'm looking for the speakers. I'm looking for the people, for example, which I would like to meet.
Well, something I also do is notice what might stop me from going to an event. So if I've booked a place at an event, particularly for free events, we're seeing really high dropout rates, as much as 40% of people dropping out events. And that's even higher for online events. So I look at what might stop me from going. A lot of times an event comes around and you see it in your diary, and you're like, I really don't feel like going to that. I'm so busy, I can't really make the time. So I try and think ahead for the excuses that I'm going to put in my own way. And try and kind of get past them and say, okay, you're not too busy. It's about planning. You've planned for this. I'll try and commit to somebody as well. Like, oh, are you going to this? Okay, I will see you there. And try and make it much more difficult for myself to not go to something that I have committed to and I, realistically want to go to. But I've also been involved in creating a lot of events, and been involved in conferences. And I know how awful it is for the organizer of events if lots of people don't turn up. So I really take my commitment seriously. If I said I'm going to go to an event, I really try and go.
Yeah, yeah. And don't sign up for the event if you truly don't want to go there, somewhere inside. Okay. We all have difficult times. Or for example, at this point, have you ever faced self-doubts or imposter syndrome? You wrote 2 books. I'm starting to write 1 book, and the imposter syndrome, it's playing the game at this stage. So what about
Yeah.
you? How you are dealing with that?
I've had loads of times where I've faced self-doubt and kind of, who am I to do this? Who am I to speak at this conference or to write this article? Surely there must be somebody who knows more about it than me. And I think sometimes we have to say, okay, I might not be the expert in something, but I'm interested in it. I'm passionate about it. I want to talk about it. And I know more than some people. So actually, it's really valuable to share what you know, even if you're just a little bit further ahead of someone else on the journey. You don't have to be a world expert in something to be able to share information and inspire somebody else to find out more. But I have a bit of a complicated relationship with the idea of imposter syndrome. I found out about it a few years ago. And when I heard about it, kind of idea of not feeling like you belong, I was like, yeah, I felt that so many times. It was like a light bulb moment. And I wrote about it. I wrote an article and I talked about why it was particularly rife in the business analysis community. But as the years have gone by, I've decided that I'm not going to use the term imposter syndrome anymore. And actually, I think it's holding people back. And the reason that I say things is because it's too kind of focused on the individual. It says there's something wrong with you. You're not confident enough. You don't have the self-belief. And it doesn't allow organizations to look at the culture that they're creating that might mean that some people are more likely to feel like that. It puts all of the effort on the individual to change how they feel, how they act. And actually, we need our organizations to be thinking about the culture that they're creating and how it can be welcoming to everybody, how job adverts can appeal to everyone, how promotion processes can get the best out of everybody. And I think saying that lots of people suffer from imposter syndrome, it's giving our organizations too much of a get out that they don't need to do anything different. It's us that need to do something different. Actually, I think it's the systems, the processes, and the organizations that need to change, not the individual people. So I'm not saying imposter syndrome anymore.
Okay. It is different perspective, and of one part could agree with that.
I think that tendency towards perfectionism really can be a barrier to things being good enough or to believing in ourselves. There's a lot of research around women will only apply for roles, for example, if they meet 100% of the criteria, but for men it's a much lower percentage. Women are much more likely to apply for promotions if someone says to them, I really think you should apply for this promotion, whereas men don't need that kind of external encouragement. So we can think about the processes that we have in place, and are they encouraging everybody? Are they getting the best out of everybody? Or are some people finding that environment more difficult? And let's not just call that imposter syndrome. Let's say, how can we improve things for everyone?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. It's nice perspective. Thank you so much that you're sharing. And yes, women usually, if they hear that you're suitable for that position, so they more confident step forward. From where that came, that kind of understanding that for men, they don't seek validation. Why we are seeking for that validation?
I think it's a lot about social conditioning, and particularly how we talk about to our children. There's a really interesting study done on a children's playground at a fireman's pole. Do you know what that is? Where it's just like a bar and you hold onto it and then you slide down the pole.
Yep.
And they had one of these at this playground, and these researchers were looking at the language that parents used with their children. And with boys, they were saying, come on, be brave, you can do it, that's great. With girls, they were saying, be careful, hold on, are you sure? Do you want to do it? Let me help you. And so that kind of perspective feeds young children, in particular impacts young girls, about the level of risk that it's okay to take, how you make your own decisions about whether you want to do something or not, or whether actually you should be checking with someone else, whether you have been careful enough, whether this is too risky. And so I just think that's a really interesting example of how we speak to girls and boys differently, and how that can potentially impact their careers and their whole lives.
And the good thing that the generation who's growing up now, probably it will be totally different than ours, because we still grow up in that kind of mindset. And I believe that majority of ladies who just shifting their identity from seeking validation and to doing things, I think the children's will be different.
Yeah, I think it's going to be different. And what we're noticing with young people that are emerging from university, for example, they have a lot more interest in working for themselves. So there's much more entrepreneurial spirit. The idea of the kind of the side hustle, which is very prevalent on social media. They're not interested in committing to a single organisation for the long term. So they're much more about freedom and having the choices to do what they want. So I think it's really interesting how that's going to play out in future generations of the workforce as well.
And the thing is that it's never will be just the good things. The bad things will be as well. How is it? It's always in balance.
Absolutely, yeah. It's going to bring challenges, and having multiple generations, maybe 3, maybe even 4 generations of people in the workforce all at the same time, as people are working longer into their 70s, and people are entering the workforce at 16 or 18. That's going to be really interesting to navigate, having all of those different perspectives and different priorities being managed within teams and within organizations.
Is I don't know. I'm just trying to imagine what kind of challenges the founder will have after 100 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, lots of different challenges.
I know that we have all difficult times, and how I say it. I don't know a person who don't have it in different stages. So, what helped you to keep moving through the difficult times?
So something that I have done during difficult times in my life is to be really busy. And I'm not suggesting that this is a good strategy at all, but this was a kind of coping strategy that I realize now, looking backwards on some of the difficult times in my life, is to keep saying yes to things, to keep taking on more and more work, continuing to try and push myself, prove myself, and also to limit the amount of time that I had available to really think about some of the challenges and some of the difficult things that I was going through. So I've noticed that about myself, that I do have a tendency to kind of bury myself in work, take on too much, and use work as a distraction sometimes from difficult things that we can be experiencing in our life. And so the reason that I mention that is as an opportunity for people to reflect and just say, is that something I do? Do I kind of use busyness as a way of hiding from some of the more difficult emotions and the more difficult things that we have to navigate in our lives? Because I don't think it's a good long-term strategy.
It is, it is. And I've noticed, even, I'm catching sometimes myself that just start the more projects or start more tasks to do and just keeping open the questions which have to sort it out.
But also recognizing that across your career, there'll be times when your work and your career is absolutely the most important thing. But then actually at other times, there'll be phases of your life where something else is more important. And you can't take on every challenge. You can't pursue every project, take every promotion, because sometimes you have to prioritize your health or your family or other things that are going on for you. And even if you've kind of had a good trajectory that's going really well, not thinking, okay, well, it has to maintain this forever. Actually, sometimes there's going to be kind of peaks and troughs, and some of the roles that you might take might be for some of those other reasons.
It is. Never importance is equal for each and everything. And sometimes it's hard because it looks like everything is important.
It is, and learning how to say no effectively and politely is uh, is a real skill as well, because want to we want to do a good job. We want people to think of us for other opportunities in the future. So it's really tempting to say yes to everything, but actually, to be able to prioritize, we need to be able to know what to say no to, and we need to do that in a positive way, not in a negative way.
Yeah. Sometimes to say no, to say is the one part, to say yes is the one stage. When you grow up that stage, you have to learn how to say no for the opportunities, because then you can see everywhere the opportunities, how you can see,
Mm,
I can do that, I can do another thing.
yeah.
And then is the stage when you have to learn to say no. How you doing that? Because usually to be uncomfortable to others or to say no, it's not according our training.
No, it
Be
isn't.
good girl.
To be a good girl, you can't say, no, I'm too busy for that, or I don't want to do that. That's quite difficult. So the first thing is being really honest with myself. So when we were talking about events before, there's loads of really interesting events. I'm not going to get to all of them. So I have to be realistic and say, okay, well, what else have I got on that week? Let's make a choice here. Which one of these is the thing that needs my attention? I love to learn. I love to know about all kinds of different topics, but where am I actually going to give my attention and spend my time that week or that month? So that's the first one, kind of being honest with yourself about your own time and your own priorities. And then dealing with other people is can be quite difficult as well. Um, One thing that I say to people is, yeah, thanks so much for thinking about me. It's not a good fit for me right now, but I'm really pleased that you got in touch. And if there are other opportunities or other ideas or other suggestions in future, please think of me. Please let's talk about this again in future. In a work context, I think it's about being really transparent with your manager or wherever the requests are coming from and saying, yeah, I can absolutely do that, but I can't do that in this time frame and do these other things. So it's really allowing other people to see into everything that you've got going on, particularly if it's a manager or somebody who's trying to get you to add more things to your to-do list. If it's not a manager, and if it's somebody in your team or a peer, just being able to say, I can't take that on at the moment. If you want me to do that, I can do that, but I'm not going to get to it till September. So should we revisit it then? Or does it need doing more urgently? Can we find somebody else to do it? So it's not in none of those scenarios is it about trying to be negative. It's always about trying to be honest. It's about trying to achieve the best results for everybody. And that doesn't necessarily mean you saying yes to everything.
Wow, it's incredible. I just noticed, small thing. For example, if you tell people that you can't do that or you can't do the task because of, I don't know, some things, so it's good. But if you can't do the task or you can't go to the event which they offering because you don't want to, it's the different thing.
Yeah. I think that's really interesting, and that we feel like we have to offer up excuses. And I have tried to get out of that. So if there's something that I can't do or don't want to do, I'll say, I'm really sorry, I can't do that date. I don't have to give a reason. I don't have to say because I'm doing this other thing, just say, I can't make it, or, you know, that that doesn't work for me this time. Hope you have a great time. Wish you lots of luck with the event. You don't owe everybody an explanation of how you're spending your time.
Yeah, need to realize that. I believe so for majority of our listeners. Usually, I used to struggle with that that give the over explanation where I'm spending my time, because probably I used to like to get that explanation for myself, because
Mm.
then I feel why person don't want to go there, or what is the reason behind. But my intention was, it's not that I'm too nosy, but when I used to explain myself, it's like I just want to that the person understand correctly the situation.
Mm. Yeah. And I think that's fine, you know, if it's a good friend and you can't make it to something for a genuine reason, you want to share that reason, that's fine. But you don't owe everybody an explanation. And it's okay to say, oh, I'm not going to make it, but I hope it goes really well. I hope it's a good event. And that's fine. And actually, people are really busy and they don't care as much about what you're doing and why you can or can't go to something as we think we do. We think, oh, well, you know, that'll look really bad if I don't say why I can't make it. But actually, other people are busy as well. They get it.
Yeah, everyone is busy, and everybody usually has it. Majority of them don't care about that. Just let's be honest. Okay, what mindset shift made the biggest difference in your growth?
So this kind of relates to the point that we were just talking about, really, is that realizing that actually other people aren't that interested in what you're doing. I think sometimes we hold ourselves back and we say, oh, I can't apply for that job because that will be a step down, or it's less money, or it's a less impressive job title. And what will people think? It's like, well, mostly people won't think anything. They won't notice. They're not going to know. And I think we hold ourselves back and we worry about what other people think and how other people are judging us. And actually, people aren't that interested. They're more interested in themselves and the choices they're making. So don't ever make choices that you think are kind of what other people want you to do or what looks better to other people. I think that's something that a lot of people could stand to learn earlier in their career.
It is. It is. As we can repeat, we are not universe attention center, so it's kind of everyone is busy with them own things. Okay, so I think that I get kind of the answer for the second question, because I love this question. I don't know, or you know that or not, but it's kind of a bit cheesy, but it's always on top, because if the question sounds like, what would be advice for your younger self? So did we got the answer, or maybe you would give another
So
advice?
I think don't worry about too much about what the people are thinking about your decisions. Make what feels like the right decision for you now. I think that's really important. I think the other thing is don't feel that you're on a fixed path. A lot of people worry about, I'm on this career path and I can't just change to this other thing. But actually, the world doesn't really work like that anymore. We have this quite outdated mental model of careers as career ladders. But I don't think most people are just kind of making steps and progressing in the same field anymore, particularly in tech. There's so much opportunity. You can work on a new project and suddenly you've got skills in a new technology, which makes you think, oh, actually, I'd really like to know more about that and I'd like to specialize. Or you work on a particular project and get exposed to something like cybersecurity and build your skills and knowledge. And then you're uniquely equipped to do another type of role. So I talk about the idea of squiggly careers. And I think this is much more helpful particularly for young people, but for all of us really, to think you're not on a fixed career ladder. You don't have to make the next logical step that's more money and more responsibility. Look at all of the opportunities that are around you. It might be different job titles. It might be different types of organization. It might be doing something out on your own for a while, working part-time, working for a combination of organizations. There's a lot more open to us now than just the simple idea of career ladders where you have to make the next sensible step. So I think that's something that I would have liked to understood earlier, and I think young people need to understand there's this kind of squiggly careers option open to them.
Oh my God, it's amazing. Uh, yeah. Totally agree. We have dynamic environment or career environment, and it's no more stagnation. I think that you start with the computer engineering and you have to finish with the head of that IT department. So no, it's
Mhm.
a lot of opportunities. Even now, we are talking to the online platform, and I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, we wouldn't do that. Everything changed. Just open your mind. And the recently, what I understand that we just like to be too comfortable. What we learn, we don't like to try new things. Even is the easy thing. How's it? I think that I'm quite technical person. More, how's it? I like analytical things. I like ads. And, usually every day you learn something new because you have to do it. Otherwise, it's like a lot of updates during these years. So, but what I catch myself that it's a lot of tools is coming as well. But how come I didn't use them yet? Because, according to habit, I'm usually learn new things there where I used to learn. But to try new things, and actually a few days ago I tried new platforms, and it was like, wow, it's so easy.
Yeah, I think we talk about the idea that people are resistant to change, but I don't think that's really true. I think people fear loss. And if we do something different, we might lose our sense of capability because I knew how to use the old platform, but the new platform, I don't know how to use it yet. So I've kind of lost that sense of feeling competent, knowing what I'm doing. Maybe I'm actually losing a bit of time because I knew how to do it the old way and I don't know the new way yet. It's not as familiar. So I don't think we are naturally resistant to change. I don't really like that label that we give people, particularly in tech. We do label whole departments sometimes as resistant to change, or individual people, oh, that person's very resistant to change. I think actually we need to explore what are the feelings of loss that they have? What are they worried about losing out on? When we're talking about tech, a lot of people are worried about losing their jobs. They're worried that there's going to be so much improvement and so much efficiency saving that we're not going to need as many people in the workforce anymore. So we need to be really honest about that. We need to talk about that. And we need to understand what people's fears are. And that applies to ourselves as well. So when there's something new, some training that we've had or some learning that we've had, but we're not putting it into practice, why is that? What's stopping us? And really kind of making the space to put learning into practice, I think is important.
It is. But about the resistant, I would say again, it's different types of personality probably. When I used to be chief marketing officer and in the startups, and usually when you come up with new idea and okay, 99% that it will work. And you're telling for your team usually how I say, let's switch totally, I don't know, 360-degree and do totally differently because I know that it will give us the result. And the team is like, for the first week, it's like looking at me like the enemy.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a kind of personality aspect in there. Some people are more open to innovation and embracing change, and other people are a little bit more reluctant or need to be convinced or need to see things working before they'll admit that something was a good idea or was worth doing. But I think usually when people are resistant change, there's a fear in there, and we need to understand what are they fearful of and how can we help them get past that fear.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about you more deeply or how you can help people. Actually, do you have any events, courses, or books you would like to share, or maybe they can help for
Yeah.
people?
So I will mention the book Careers in Tech, Data and Digital because I think it's a really helpful resource. There's lots of signposting in there. It breaks down a lot of the different roles in tech that you might not have heard of before, or you might have heard of it and not really known what it is. Things like product roles, product management, product owner, service design. What are some of these things and what skills do you need to be able to do those roles? I'm also on LinkedIn and be very happy to connect with people who want to follow me there. And I write for a number of online and print magazines, so I make sure that I share what I'm putting out so people can find out more about what I'm doing.
For sure, we will share all the links which you will provide to us. And the last question, do you have your, I don't know, three favorite books which change your mindset and lead you? for the most growth?
So there's 3 books that I want to mention. The first is called Dare to Lead by Brené Brown, but actually anything by Brené Brown. I just think she's brilliant. She's a really empathetic leader. She really understands some of the challenges of leadership and some of the personal things that we need to get through to be the best leaders that we can be. So that's a great book for anyone who is thinking about moving into a leadership role or is in a leadership role. The next book is called The Coaching Habit by Michael Bungay Steiner. He's Australian originally, I believe, and it really changed my practice as a manager. I've managed a large team in my career, and this idea of using coaching practices as a manager or as a leader, I think is really valuable. The third one is a book about public speaking. It's called How to Own the Room by a UK-based author called Viv Groskop. So I've chosen 2 books by women there and 1 by man, and only 1 American. I think with a lot of self-help and professional development books, a lot of them are written by American men, and that doesn't translate to every context. So I would encourage people to think not just about the book titles that you're seeing everywhere, but thinking about some authors, maybe lesser known authors, and actually seeking out authors who are different to you in some way, and what we can learn from a whole range of different perspectives.
Wow, I love this session. I get a lot of new information, and I'm truly happy that we have you today on the podcast. It was truly wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
So for the rest of us, if you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe, or even better, invite a friend who might need some inspiration. And don't forget, follow Muse in Tech for more real stories, practical tips, and encouragement. We are here to support you in your tech journey. So keep believing, keep taking micro steps, and keep building, keep shining your light. Until the next time, my beautiful souls. Thanks for listening, beautiful souls. Don't forget to like, follow, and share, and visit us at museintech.com. Until next time.